You're going to find this recording really useful to help you get ready for the changes that are coming to AAA from the September 22 exam sitting onwards. And good news, my course, my revision course and my mocks have been fully updated to reflect all of these changes. So when you study with me, you're going to be getting the best possible advice and the most up-to-date exam preparation. As usual, ACCA have updated the AAA syllabus for the September exam sitting. This video is going to explain to you what the changes are from September 2022 and give you some advice on how to approach the exam differently. So what are the changes? Well, the biggest one, you've probably heard all about it already, are these 20 professional skills marks that are coming into the exam. And other changes include the way that they expect you to calculate materiality. That's going to make a real change to the way you do Section A of the exam. Next, it's evaluating and prioritising particularly your risks in Section A, but this does also apply throughout the rest of the exam paper as well. Then, quality management, a beefed up area of the syllabus. And finally, we're going to talk about social and environmental reporting. Again, something that the examiner has flagged as being more likely to be examined going forward. So let's start with the big one, the 20 professional skills marks. There are going to be 10 professional skills marks in Section A of the exam and 5 professional skills marks in each of the Section B questions. Now, the first of the professional skills is for communication, and there are going to be 4 of these available in the first question only in the case study question. And they're going to be doing things like having the right title, briefing notes, and structure, so like to, from, date, a brief introduction, and subheadings. That's the first of the marks. Second of the marks is for the clarity of your language. Third of the marks is going to be for following any specific instructions that you're given in the question. For example, don't talk about this or do talk about this. And the fourth of the marks, well, that's a little bit more vague as to what it's for. It's for an effective answer, but it's for doing things like using the scenario fully. Following the specific guidance that you're given in the question around calculating materiality. More on that shortly. The second of the professional skills marks is for analysis and evaluation. This is for having a balanced argument, for arguing both sides, concluding where relevant, including numbers in your evaluation. So things like ratios, trends, and commenting on those numbers. Next, it's professional skepticism and judgment. Now, this one, this is for questioning with authority. That's the skepticism part. And judgment would be around prioritizing of your points again. Skepticism is the most important one, the most important of the professional skills within the AAA exam. It's a bit different for each of the different papers, but skepticism is particularly important for the audit paper because it's key to a robust audit, having an inquiring mind and robustly challenging management, having moral courage. And the final professional skills marks are for commercial acumen. Now, this isn't going to be in every question. But where relevant, commenting on things like around acceptance of a new audit, for example, the reputation damage that might occur if we associate with an unscrupulous client. And it could be in a business risk question for showing that you understand the wider commercial environment. Now, you'll notice I told you exactly how many communication marks there are, 4. Can't tell you how many marks there are for the others because they're not going to publish how many marks are available in each question. They'll just tell you which of the skills are being examined in which place. So, top tips for dealing with these professional skills. Firstly, make sure you answer the specific question that's been set. That's going to be really important in earning these marks. You're going to have to mine the scenario fully, make tailored points. don't write anything bland, generic, and rote learned. You need to use the scenario to make your points tailored. Each of your points needs to be fully developed, asking yourself, so what? What does it mean for the business going forward? What are the wider implications of this issue that I've raised? What does it mean for wider stakeholders in the business? And finally, don't worry about it. These professional skills are going to be marked alongside your technical answer. You're not really expected to do anything new or different to earn these marks. In fact, ACCA's test marking of old scripts that were real exam scripts but were written before the professional skills came in, what ACCA found is that stronger students were earning most of these professional skills marks without even trying. Next change that's coming in is the way that materiality is going to be calculated, or the way they expect you to calculate it, particularly in section A of the exam. What you'll need to do from September 22 onwards is you'll be given guidance in the question as to how to calculate materiality, what the most relevant benchmark is for this particular business. The partner will tell you, use profit before tax, total assets, or revenue. Then you have to calculate a materiality range. So know your percentage ranges. So PBT is 5 to 10%. So you calculate that range, and then you have to justify what your actual materiality number is. You might go for a low materiality if there are particular risks in the scenario. For example, it's a new audit client. Or you might go for a higher materiality if it's an established client where nothing much has changed. But you'll need to set that materiality level and explain why, using the scenario, you've set it at that point. You then, once you've set that materiality level, you then have to apply that to each of the issues in the question, concluding whether or not that particular issue is material based on your number that you've calculated. In section B, nothing has changed. The way we approach materiality is each individual item in the question, you calculate how material it is versus the appropriate benchmark. So if it's an issue that's impacting the profitability of the business, you would calculate the size of that issue versus PBT. The example I've got there on screen is 12%. So if an issue is 12% of profit before tax, that would make it material because it's above the 5 to 10% bracket. Now, you're going to have to use your judgment in these questions to decide what the most relevant benchmark for materiality is. Most of the time it will be PBT. But it could be an issue that is just impacting the assets of the business, just impacting the statement of financial position, in which case you use total assets. Or it could be something that's just impacting sales, and therefore you might just use revenue as your benchmark. Okay, and those are the three benchmarks that you would consider using in the question: PBT, revenue, and assets. Our next change is that you're expected to do a little bit more in terms of evaluating and prioritizing your points, particularly in section A, but also through the rest of the paper too. You're expected to put your most significant points first. This is the biggest risk, and that's why it's first in my answer. And you're going to have to explain why it's so significant. So using the scenario, explain why this particular risk or particular point that you have picked out is the most important one. And it's going to be a good idea to have a little conclusion, both at the bottom of your risk question in section A and also in other questions too, where you're perhaps summarizing it with a concluding comment, particularly talking about your most significant area. Next change is quality management. This is not really a new topic area. In fact, it's been in AAA for ages, doing a quality control review of an audit, engagement quality control reviews, cold reviews, hot reviews, these sort of things. There's not really anything new to learn, but it's been given a greater emphasis in the syllabus, and the examiner has been talking about it specifically, which is telling me that it is much more likely to be examined. So in terms of your question practice, you're going to need to be focusing more on those types of questions where we're given an extract from an audit file and we're asked to comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit. Finally, social and environmental reporting. Now, this is a hot topic. It's in the marketplace, in the wider marketplace. This is something that companies are focusing more and more on, particularly large listed businesses. Large sections of their financial statements will include environmental, social, and governance, or ESG reporting. Now, the difficulty for us within AAA and also just in the wider environment is it's a little bit of a Wild West at the minute. There are no defined regulations about exactly what a company needs to report. And so there's not much comparability between how different companies do things. And that gives real challenges for the auditor. Firstly, these challenges are going to be around, these measures are quite technical. CO2 emissions. What expertise does the auditor have in measuring these? So there's a detection risk around it. And because there are no defined rules on exactly how these things are measured, different companies are doing things differently. It's going to be hard for the auditor to challenge management robustly on some of these measures. Now, in terms of the exam, what you're quite likely to get going forward is one of those questions that gives you some social or environmental measures that the business is reporting, and it might ask you on the relevance and measurability of these particular measures. It's going to be important to practice some of those questions.